Good afternoon, class. I'm your teacher, Elaine. Today's discussion, I will discuss about the process of water cycle. So, before I start, I want to show you the two visual aid model. So, first, I will use this one, the two-dimensional visual aid model. And the second one is the 3D dimensional visual aid model of water cycle. So, class, this is the process of water cycle. But before I continue, I want you to know about what is water cycle. So, class, water cycle is a water constantly being cycled between the atmosphere, the ocean, and land. This cycling is a very important process that helps sustain life on Earth. So class, the first process of water cycle is a collection. So a collection, class, when water falls back Earth, it may go in the ocean, lakes, and rivers. It may end up land, plants, and animals. Or it may be used to drink. Or it may collect in the ocean, lakes, rivers, and streams, where the cycle starts all over again. Last, this is the collection. And the second process is the evaporation. See, this one, class, the arrow. You can follow the arrow. The evaporation. So, this process, class, where a liquid, in this case, water, changes from its liquid states to gaseous states. So, some of the water in the ocean, fresh waters, bodies such as lakes, this one, rivers, is warmed by the sun and evaporates by the sun. So, during the process, class, of evaporation, the impurities in the water are left behind. As a result, the water that goes into atmosphere is cleaner than it was on Earth. So, the third process of water cycle, class, is a condensation. So, condensation, class, is a opposite of evaporation. Condensation occurs when a gas is changed into a liquid. So, when the water droplets formed from a condensation are very small, they remain suspended in the atmosphere. So, these millions of droplets, class, of suspended water form clouds in the sky, fog, or a fog that at the ground level. So, the fourth process of water cycle, class, is the precipitation. See, this one, the precipitation. So, the precipitation, class, when the temperature at the atmosphere pressure are right, the small droplets of water in the clouds, it is formed of larger droplets and precipitates occur. So, the raindrops, it's occur. So, much of the water that returns to Earth as precipitation, class, it's called runoffs surface. So, the surface of runoffs, class, it is the land and flows the downhill streams, one, rivers, ponds, and lakes. So, this one, class. So, the small stream flows into a larger streams, then into a rivers. Eventually, the water flows in the ocean. So, nibalik ra gyapon, class, nibalik ra gyapon ang tubig to the ocean. So, the surface runoff is an important part of the water cycle, class, because through surface runoff, class, it much of the water returns of the water again to the oceans where a great deal of evaporation occurs. So the next process class is the percolation. So ang percolation class is an important process where rainwater soak into infiltrates the ground into the soil and underlying rock layers. Then some of this water ultimately returns to the surface at brings or in low spots downhill. So the next percolation class, another term is a infiltration. Some of the water percolates underground and it's called a groundwater. So ang groundwater class, as the water moves through the soil and the rocks layers, many of the impurities in the water are filtered out. So this filtering process, it helps clean the water. So ang the groundwater class, it is a water moves into the caves. This one class moves into caves formed by a carbonization, forming many other karst features. So the next process class is a transpiration. So this is the final process of the water cycle. It is very important in the water cycle class. As a plant absorbs water from the soil, the water moves from the roots through the stems to the leaves. So ang transpiration class, once the water reaches from the leaves, some of evaporates from the leaves, adding to the amount of water vapor in air. So transpiration is the process of evaporation. It is the process of evaporation through plant leaves is called a transpiration. So in large forests, an enormous amount of water will transpire through leaves. So meaning class, the evaporation that we're back to evaporation again. So the endless cycle of water moving through our planet goes on and on and on. So that's why the water cycle class has a 6 process of cycle. The first is the collection. The second is the evaporation, the condensation, the transpiration, the precipitation, and all the other parts of the water cycle. It is complex process class because only give us water to drink and food to eat, but also the weather patterns that help grow our crops. So ang water gyud class is very important because it is an integral part of life on this planet. So I hope class you understand our discussion for today. Thank you class and bye. Good afternoon class. Today I will discuss the process of water cycle. But before I will start the discussion, I will show you the materials I need to use. I used the 2-dimensional visual aid of water cycle. Here is the 2-dimensional visual aid model of water cycle. So first, I want to ask what is water cycle? So, water cycle class is a water constantly being cycled between the atmosphere, the ocean, and the land. This cycling is a very important process that helps sustain life on Earth. So, inaana day ka-importante ang water sa tua. So, the first process of water cycle is a collection. This is class the collection of water cycle. The first process of water cycle. So collection class, when water falls back earth, it may go in the earth, in the ocean, lakes, and river. So it may end up the land, plants, and animals, or it may be used to drink, or it may be collect in the oceans, lakes, rivers, stream, where the cycle start all over again. So the next process class is the evaporation. This is the evaporation class. So evaporation class is the process where the liquid is in case water changes from its liquid states to a gaseous state. So ang evaporation class, some of the water in the oceans and the freshwater bodies such as lakes and rivers is warmed by the sun and evaporates. So mao ni siya class, ang water from collection ni evaporates siya. So during the process of evaporation class, impurities in the water are left behind. So as a result, the water that goes into atmosphere is cleaner than it was on earth. So the next process class is the condensation. This one is the condensation. So the condensation class is the opposite of evaporation. Occurs when a gas is changed into a liquid. So when the water droplets class formed from a condensation are very small, they remain suspended in the atmosphere. So the condensation, these millions of droplets of suspended water form clouds in the sky or fog at around level. So the next process class is the precipitation. So when the temperature and the atmospheric pressure are night, the small droplets of water in clouds form a larger droplets and precipitation occurs. So the raindrops pull to earth class. So that our class, look this illustration class. The water is pulled back to the earth. So when the precipitation pull back to the earth class, it's the surface runoff. So much of water that returns to earth as precipitation so runs off the surface of the land and flows downhill into streams, rivers, ponds, and lakes. So ang surface runoff pod class is this one. This one is a small streams flow into a larger streams, then into a rivers, and eventually the water flows in the ocean. Mauna siya ang surface runoff class. So another definition of surface runoff class is a surface runoff is an important part of water cycle because through the surface runoff, much of the water returns again to the ocean where a great deal of evaporation occurs. So the next is the percolation. So another term of percolation class is infiltration. So percolation class is an important process where the rain water soak into infiltrates the ground, so into the soil and underlying the rocks layers. So some of this water ultimately returns to the surface at spring or in low spots downhill. So mao ni siya diri class. So diri ang percolation, so ni go down siya into ground water. The groundwater. So as the water moves through the soil and the rock layers, many of the impurities in the water are filtered out. So this filtering process helps clean the water. So water moves into caves formed by carbonization, forming many other karst features. So the next process is the transpiration. This one class, from here going to transpiration rather. So this is the final process of water cycle, because this one is very important in water cycle. So as plant absorb water from the soil, the water moves from the roots through the stem to the leaves. So once the water reaches the leaves, some of it evaporates from the leaves, adding to the amount of water vapor in the air. So ang transpiration daw, class, is the process of evaporation through plant leaves is called a transpiration. So in large forests, an enormous amount of water will transpire through leaves. So ang evaporation the class are we're back to evaporation. So ang kanidang evaporation class is the endless cycle of water moving through our planet goes on and on. So the water cycle class has 8 process. So the first is the collection, condensation, transpiration, precipitation, and all the others are part of the water cycle. So it is a complex process that not only give us water to drink and food to eat, but also the weather patterns that help to grow our crops. So that's why, class, water is very important, because water is an integral part of life on this planet. So I hope, class, you understand my discussion. Thank you and bye.